Hello everyone, USB here. Marbula One Season 4 provided us with some terrific racing at 9 fan-favorite tracks and Sleet Street, all leading up to a very climactic final race at the Casino Square. Or at least, it would have been, if Rima remembered what direction they were supposed to go in after turn 6, and we weren't celebrating National Hazers Choke Day. In light of the Savage Speeders being the first team to win 2 titles in 2 JMR organized events, let's take a look through the teams that have, at any point, competed in a Marbula One season to rank them from worst to best. We have our 6 tiers, S through F, and let's get going with the teams that will surprise absolutely no one. The Jungle Jumpers and the Hornets. And yes, the order is important. Both teams have only competed in one Marbula One season. Both of them finished dead last in that season, so what could possibly be the difference in between them? Well, if you take a look at their average points per race, you find that the Hornets finished with a total of a singular point per race, atrocious, and the Jungle Jumpers somehow managed to do even worse, getting 0.75 points per race. This is the worst points total of any team in any JMR organized event, and I think we're going to move on from there because enough has been said already. Now, all the teams from this point forward at least have a little bit of a grasp on what the concept of speed and going fast is. Starting off the D tier, we have the Wolfpack. Fun fact, in Season 4, they had the least amount of points paying finishes out of all the teams on the grid. And even with that, they still managed to beat the Raspberry Racers to 19th. But seeing that I'm attempting to frame this as a compliment tells you the rest of the story as to why they're at the bottom of D tier. This being their one and only result, there's not much else to talk about. The Limers have a very similar, if not almost completely identical career. The only difference in between them is, once again, points per race. The Limers have 2 seasons, which helps them out in this regard, but it only helps them out against the Wolfpack and not any other team. They have 2 second last place finishes. Season 1 was 15th out of 16, and then Season 2 was 19th out of 20. And even then, in Season 2, they were kind of in a no man's land in between the Jungle Jumpers and the next team, actually, that we're going to talk about, the Minty Maniacs. We're going up slowly, one position by one position, because the Minty Maniacs, instead of 2 19th place finishes, have 2 18th place finishes to show for themselves, just slightly above the Limers. Even though Season 2 was a significant margin, it's just not enough to be any higher, especially when the team above them mathematically cannot be below them. Because next up we have the Oceanics. Oceanics kind of got shafted. If the Minty Maniacs and the Limers of all teams deserved 2 seasons in Marbula One, so did the Oceanics, but hey, they didn't get that. Season 2 was their one and only season, and they finished that in 17th, joining the Minty Maniacs in a train of single-digit point differences that went all the way up to 14th, that being the Raspberry Racers at the time. But once again, when it's their only result, it's not standing very well on their own. And oh, speak of the devil, the Raspberry Racers are up next. This team was kind of hard to rank. In their 3 seasons, they have performances from mid to awful. Season 4 was on caliber with the Hornets, 1 point per race, finishing dead last. Then Season 2 was okay-ish. They finished in 14th, as I mentioned, at the head of that train down to 18th. And then Season 1, they finished in 14th, just barely above the Limers. So, I mean, yeah, the 14th, that being the highest position we've seen so far by a good margin, it drags them up above here. Now, time for my first out of, I believe, 2 hot takes that I make in this list. Now, you might be thinking, USB, why put the Rojo Rollers above the Razzies and Oceanics? Or maybe you don't care. Maybe you skipped further into the video when I'm talking about the teams in the C tier, and honestly, I don't blame you. The Rojo Rollers were consistent. Consistently mid, but still consistent nonetheless. Their one season in Marbula One, they almost scored points in every race, which I find interesting because they still finished all the way down here. And they finished 13th out of 16 teams. That performance alone I would call more impressive than 17th out of 20, but I feel that if the Rojo Rollers were given more time, they could have done a lot more. I mean, it was obvious from that performance that the team had stuff going for them. They were just struggling to find their grip. And they eventually did towards the end of the season, but it was too late. And given how this series is mostly determined by Marble League performances, weirdly enough, I don't think we'll ever see them again, unfortunately. But yeah, keeping the different point system in mind, I think the Rojo Rollers are underrated because Season 1 points were kind of brutal. Following, or not following, I guess ahead of the Rojo Rollers, we have the Chocolatiers. The Chocolatiers are only the second team so far to have a result outside of the bottom 5. However, 15th and 18th is nothing spectacular. I was really debating between them and the Rollers who would go higher. I'd put them on the same level, but the Chalks had better points per race, so they edged it out in that regard. And next up, we have probably one of the most comical teams on the current grid, the Pinkies. Their Marbula One career is honestly laughable. It's funny, when you only show up for half of the season, you don't do good. Who would have thought that? They got 19th in Season 3 and 13th in Season 4, with 85% of their points coming from the last and first half of those respective seasons. How about you take those halves, put them together? Maybe you might get a top half result, but I don't know. Maybe I'm giving you guys too much credit. But someone seriously needs to get the Pinkies a calendar. They don't know if the season has started or if it has ended. They're just kind of rolling around hoping for the best. And now, the final team in the D tier are the Turtle Sliders. Now, with one season in Marbula One, the Turtle Sliders are already outside of the bottom 10 teams, which, knowing their Marble League performances, honestly shocks me. 14th out of 20 teams in Season 3 equals the best result of the Razzies and falls just short of the Pinkies. But without one or more catastrophic results, the Sliders still rank above both of those teams and serve as a good gateway to the C tier. Because while the teams in the D tier understand what it means to go fast, the C tier teams often put it into practice. Now we start off the C tier with Mellow Yellow, 10th out of 16 teams in Season 1, 15th and 16th are Seasons 1, 2, 3, respectively. Mellow Yellow are on a downhill trajectory for their entire Marbula One career, and it does not shock me that they aren't a thing anymore. They weren't in Season 4. But, I mean, something cool that I don't know, make of this what you will. They had the closest teammate pairing before the Balls of Chaos scored identical points this season, with Yellup and Yellow only separated by 1 point at the end of the season. So, doesn't save them from mediocrity. But just a side note, even with my optimism about the Rojo Rollers, I have no doubt that if they were given more time, realistically speaking, they'd probably become mellow yellow. Which, hey, that's still an upgrade, but what are you going to do? The Midnight Wisps are next. And this is the first team with an overall result inside the top half, with 9th in Season 2. But outside of that, a 12th in Season 1, which is out of 16 teams, and an embarrassing 20th in Season 3, where the Pinkies beat them by 1 point to 19th, with a further 9 to the Minties in 18th, is not a great showing. And that 9th is honestly carrying them. And just ahead of the Midnight Wisps, we have the Bumblebees. The Bumblebees have been competing for 3 seasons so far in Marbula One and have been putting up the same mediocre path of performances. Mostly nothing results, with 1 to 3 good results to keep them out of the bottom 5, yet still in the bottom half of the field. Bumble is a decent racer, but they seriously need another Bumble caliber marble, if not better, to propel this team further up the Marbula One grid. And then we have the Shining Swarm. Not gonna lie, if the Shining Swarm just had a repeat of Season 3, they'd probably be a good 3 to 4 spots higher. But 15th is really pulling them back from that 8th that they showed in Season 3. They even finished on the podium 3 times in Season 3. When they inevitably return for Season 5, because I don't see them being cut, even with this more weak performance, I hope they return to Season 3 performances, because, yeah, this team is on a steep downhill trajectory, and that is entirely not what I expected for them. I basically expected them to be what the Gliding Glaciers are right now. Actually, slightly better. But then, just ahead of the Shining Swarm, and this is deja vu from my Marble League tier list, the Thunderbolts. Looking at the first 2 seasons of the Thunderbolts, they'd probably be chilling up in the B tier. Looking at the last 2 seasons, would probably put them in the D tier. So the middle of C tier is perfect, as much as it pains me to put them here. This team has gone from the heights of title contention in both team and individual championships to being the only team to not score in points in the first 3 races of Season 4. They ended the first half of Season 4 with a singular point. Please rediscover those first 2 seasons of Magic, because, yeah, it's rough for the Thunderbolts right now. 13th and 17th are their current results, compared to 6th and 8th of an era gone by, it seems. And just ahead of them are the Gliding Glaciers. This team is almost the opposite of the Pinkies. They have an uncanny level of consistency. They have nearly identical point totals in all 4 season halves, like first half to second half of the seasons that they have partaken in. 36 to 44 point split in Season 3, and 30 to 24 point split in Season 4, leading to 10th and 12th in those respective seasons. A solid mid-pack team that needs one big performance to propel them into more big successes. But this team, I feel like this team has got what it takes. Specifically with Frost at the helm, this team can do some work. Now, come a duo of teams that I was not expecting to put this high, but I'm happy that I am. The Blackjacks started slow, but then they started turning up the heat when everyone forgot they were competing, scoring in all but 1 of the 10 races and bridging a 17-point gap to the Green Ducks in the 9th race to put them in top half contention. Those are the highlights of this very strong rookie season. It almost makes them look better than Team Plasma, but mathematically, they finished behind. I can't put them above. But Team Plasma had the reverse season. Team Plasma started really hot. If I remember correctly, they were chilling in 5th at one point. I think they might have been on the podium like really early on, like after race 2. But they started burning out when everyone started paying attention. And they went from strong podium and even title contention, and they fell all the way down to just barely scraping by to a top half finish. With keeping in mind, this is a rookie season, 10th is pretty good. Like, they can build with this. It's the same thing with the Blackjacks. They got to sort out the other half of the season, and now we're actually cooking. Unlike the Pinkies, though, the one half of the season for both of these teams is actually good. So sorry to break it to you, Pinkies. These guys have the same problem, but they're already dealing with it better. You guys gotta step it up. But back to these two teams, the Blackjacks and Team Plasma, they exceptional rookie seasons, and I have a strong belief that they can move forward from this. And now, ending off the C tier, we have the Balls of Chaos. The Balls of Chaos have been going up and down, mostly down, but there is still a little bit of up. 9th, 11th, and 14th are all slightly disappointing top half finishes, bottom half finishes, sorry, because 9th is bottom half, because that's season 1, right, out of 16 teams. While 4th in season 3 remains a beacon of what this team can achieve when they put their best foot forward. And honestly, even 9th and 11th, those results aren't bad either. It just pales in comparison to their 4th. And I'm giving the Balls of Chaos more not slack. I'm giving them less slack than Team Plasma and the Blackjacks for like 11th place finishes. Because the Balls of Chaos have shown what they can do. Like season 3, that is peak Balls of Chaos. And they just got to get back there. They can't, I think they can. But it'll take some work. It will take some work. And that's the end of the C tier. The C and D tier are by far the biggest, so we're actually in the final stretch now. With Team Momo starting off the B tier. Season 1 was a rough start for this team. They finished in 11th out of 16, but since then they have not finished below 7th. 5th, 6th, 7th. Those are their results since then, and what can I say? Those are really good results. In fact, in season 4, they were actually in title contention until the very end and ended up winning the individual championship with Momo. So, solid performances from this team. All right, second hot take, the Snowballs are better than Team Momo. That sounds so weird to say coming off of season 4, but I genuinely believe it. I do not care if this team only had 2 seasons in Marbula One. They never deserve to be cut. 4th place in season 1 is very good. Even better that they were right on the tail of the Orangers for 3rd. They were pushing the Orangers. That is amazing performances. 12th, kind of mediocre, not gonna lie. But teams have been kept on that have done much, much worse. And it kind of just shows that Marbula One is not its own thing. It's directly tied to the Marble League. If you do good in the Marble League, you're staying in Marbula One. Looking at you, Pinkies and Raspberry Racers. But yeah, the Snowballs deserve to come back. Fortunately, they won't. You could make an argument that Momo deserves to be higher, given that they have more performances that are like towards the top of what the Snowballs have also achieved. But the Snowballs have had less time and have performed, I believe, to the same extent. So I believe that warrants being one spot higher on the tier list. Then we have Team Galactic, which is literally just a better Team Momo. They don't have a single performance worse than 8th, but they don't have a single performance better than 5th either. A paradigm of consistency that fails to truly deliver when the pressure is fully bearing down on them. Regardless of this, Team Galactic is a solid team that has always been thereabouts, which is actually more than a lot of other teams above them even can say for their endeavors, right? Galactic is probably one of the most consistent high-end teams. And I can think maybe, yeah, I would say in terms of consistency, Galactic is probably third behind the Cobalts and Crazy Cat's Eyes, but we'll get to them. We will get to them. Then we have Team Primary. Call it recency bias. I honestly am willing to accept that. However, the Team Primary, they're still ranked the lowest team to finish on the overall podium, and they're still in B tier. They have a very similar record to the Balls of Chaos, ironically, but with two results to set them apart. Top half finish was 7th in Season 1, delivered single-handedly by Prim. Imagine if they had discovered Arup at that point, And their Season 4 performance of an overall 2nd. That compiled with a decent Season 3 result of 9th and a Season 2 blunder of 16th. That brings them to the top of the B tier. They're probably if Team Galactic is better Team Momo, then Team Primary is just better Snowballs. So yeah, they're the worst team to finish on the podium. Starting off the A tier ahead of Team Primary, we have the Cobalts. The Cobalts finished on the overall podium once in Season 3, that being a third place finish, and they have never finished below 8th in the overall standings. Top of that, they were even in they were in contention for both titles in Season 4. So that proves again that this team does have the pace to fight with some of the best. And I would say it's only a matter of time until they win at least one of those two titles. I definitely see this in the future for them, and I hope that it exists because their Marble League performances, like, Lord knows they need this. They don't have much else. Ahead of them are the Hazers. And this team has quite the record, if you ignore one horrific season. Season 3 was and still is a large blemish on their record, but 2 4th place finishes and a second more than make up for that one 17th place finish. Even so, Season 4 was a massive missed opportunity. They scored 0 points in the final race, and that led to them falling off the podium when they were in a 3-way tie for first place going in. Yeah, this team has an uncanny nature of just kicking. They kick the tower of their own work in the final stretch. It just makes me sad. Now, we have the Green Ducks. You could flip the Green Ducks and the Hazers, and I honestly couldn't, I wouldn't say anything against it. But the Green Ducks have been more consistent than the Hazers. They haven't had that one horrific season that the Hazers have. And, in fact, they've never finished outside of the top half. They've also finished on the overall podium in Season 2, making the Savage Speeders work hard for them to beat them to second. 1/3, 2/6, and a 9th is arguably better than the Hazers' record just from the fact that the Green Ducks haven't had that one horrific finish that the Hazers do, even though the Hazers have seen higher highs. And just like in the Marble League, the O'Rangers are the gatekeepers to the mountaintop. They have finished on the podium in 3 out of their 4 seasons, 1 first and 2 thirds. Unfortunately, there was one season that they didn't finish on the podium. That was 10th place in Season 2. And that's the only thing holding them back from the S tier. It would honestly be reasonable for someone to make an A+ tier specifically for the O'Rangers, but no, they're staying in the A tier. If Season 2 was better, we'd have 3 teams in the S tier, which, I mean, good for them, but it will ruin the symmetry going on, which is not intentional. I'm just happy that it happened. Now, in the S tier, in second place, we have the Savage Speeders. I am so grateful that I'm able to reasonably not put them at the top of both the Marble League and Marbula One tier lists. Now, hear me out. The argument can still be made that the Speeders deserve to be first, as they are the only team to win 2 titles. However, there's only one thing holding them back, and that's season 2. Oh, no, not season 2. In season 3, they finished in 12th. Even so, I mean, it's still like a amazing set of results. 2 firsts, a second, and a 12th. But do keep in mind that that 1/12th is the second lowest result out of all the teams present in the S and A tier. So it does hold them back a fair bit, in my opinion. Which means the best team in Marbula One is the Crazy Cat's Eyes. The Crazy Cat's Eyes are number 1. They may not have two team titles, but they do have finishes of 1st, 2nd, and 5th. This results in them having the highest average finishing position on the whole field. On top of this, they have 2 individual titles, and they're the only team to have that. Even the Savage Speeders can't say that. Red Eye is the absolute GOAT. And there we go. That is my Marbula One tier list done and dusted. I hope you have enjoyed, and feel free to disagree with some of my more hot takes, even though I don't think these takes are particularly hot, but some people might think so. And feel free to make your own list. It's fun to talk, compare, and contrast opinions. Marble League predictions coming sometime soon, and who knows, there might be a special project coming sometime down the line. Once again, this is USB. Take care to you and yours, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.